Hey, everybody. Welcome to a exceptional panel discussion on the roadmap to the future of automotive repair, brought to you by ASCCA, a great California association out there on the West Coast. And I've got a couple of West Coasters here with me. Great to have them. And I know what this team is going to talk about, and I think you're going to invest some really wise time hanging with us, because we've been able to pull together a great group from young people that are in the industry to our senior fellows. Senior fellows, don't you like that? Our senior fellows, of which I may be a member of. My dye stopped working on my hair. But I want to introduce everyone first, and I want to tell you the little backstory of how we got here. Colleen Jarger is with us she's a brand new shop owner, which is the most exciting. Colleen is the youngest person here. We wanted a young member of the industry, 29 years old, bought the shop in January. She bought Mark's Independent Service in Chatsworth, California. It's now hers. Carolyn Cocolette is here, Luscious Garage, San Francisco, and the CEO of Shopware. Hi, Carolyn.
Everybody.
Esteban Gonzalez, Pro Shop Automotive, Colton, California. I think you may be our second youngest person here, Esteban. Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
What? This is the perspective that we need to have. What's going on in our young people's minds as they see all the challenges coming at them and all the technology? How are they going to survive? I believe, Matthew, you may be our third youngest. I don't want to tell anybody's age, but I was trying to do some math today. Matthew Lockowitzer, Matt's Automotive Service Center, North Dakota and Minnesota, multi-shop operator, 5 locations that includes a collision shop. Good to have you here, sir. Greg Buckley from Buckley's Auto Care. He's grooming the third generation of his family to take over the business. Greg, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too, Carm. Good to see everybody here. We had a great conversation tonight.
See, he's fired up. I told you. Scott Brown, Connie and Dick's out in Claremont, California, and the CEO of Diagnostic Network. Hello, Scott. Nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
And Seth Thorson, Eurotech Auto Service, New Brighton, Minnesota, multi-shop operator, building another brand new store. Can't wait to get a tour of that someday. Also, the CEO of LMV Bavarian, BMW Tech Support Company. I think we covered them all.
I think we got them.
Yeah.
All right.
Frank. You got Frank.
Oh my God Almighty.
Frank, maybe it was on purpose, right?
Frank, how did I do that? How did I possibly miss you? And Frank Lloyd.
I'm not supposed to be here. No.
Chandler, I have to tell you something. You're right in front of one of the lights that I have here, Frank. I'm sorry. And from Chandler Car Care, Phoenix, and from the Wrench Nation radio show and podcast. Good to have you here, Frank.
Good to be here and good to see you guys. Thanks for everybody hanging in the chat, too. We're going to get deep.
Yes, we are. And we sure do want anyone who's with us, please give us a share and a like. Check in with your city. Have a question for this panel. We'd love to hear it. Now, Carolyn, I want to go to you. I just want to let you know that it was Rocky just 1 week ago calls me up and he goes, I got to talk to you. And I go, what's up? He says, we got to talk about the future of repair. And he says, I'm sitting here, ASCCA, former president, very active member. And I says, what do we got to do? Within 2 days, we pulled this thing together, and you all were so nice to come on board. The passion of ASCCA out in California and how you all work together is just exemplary. Give us a little backstory.
Absolutely, happy to. And I'll be speaking on behalf of ASCCA, but we have several ASCCA members on this panel, and everyone here who is part of the group appreciates the value of the association. A little bit of background for folks that may not know more about us. Automotive Service Council of California, ASCCA, is an association of independent auto repair shop owners and service professionals who have come together for access to highly valuable training, business coaching, networking opportunities, and industry information about emerging technology and trends. ASCCA helps its members take practical steps to improve their repair shop operations and business practices, saving them time and money while positioning them for long-term growth and success. The association also acts as the industry's advocate in shaping state laws and regulations to minimize their impact on auto shops, and works closely with the Bureau of Automotive Repair in California on guidelines that protect the consumer and the shop. For individuals in the industry, we invite you to attend ASCCA's virtual conference this coming May 14th and 15th, where we will be providing training on business management and technical service issues. Key topics will include marketing strategies, finance tips, and service advisor training. We're also going to do technical training. So folks that are interested in ASCCA, please go to ascca.com. We welcome members within California and nationwide. So just because you're not a shop owner or a service professional in California does not mean you cannot join our association. We would love to have you and get your support. You can apply to become a member at info@ascca.com. And our motto is to elevate and unite automotive professionals and give them voice. And one of the great aftermarket voices is Carm Capriato. Carm, thank you again, as always, for your support.
Thank you. Hey, the internet went out just in time for that great introduction. Thank you. I don't know if you heard it, but I didn't hear it. Thank you so much,
Hopefully
Carolyn.
you heard me.
Yeah, you know what? Some of the best friends that I have in the industry are from ASCCA and out there in California. Colleen, I'd love to go to you first for the reason that you're our youngest member, shop owner, and the future is completely open and right in front of you. And we'd love to hear your perspective on how you plan to prepare for what you know today about what you need to do. And we are having some internet problems at Colleen's place. And Colleen, I guess what I'm going to do is just move on to Esteban. And, we want to get this young perspective. And I guess as senior people want to kind of fill in how we see it shaping up because we've got a lot more years of experience going on. So Colleen, I'll get back to you. But Esteban, same question or same concept to you. Talk to me about what you're seeing in the future.
Well, the little time I've been in it, 7 years, I think the technology, how fast it's gone, and how the pace we've gone has been pretty tremendous. But my plan is to stay on top of everything going on, the ADAS, the connected cars, all that new, everything new that's happening that's going to be with us in the next 4 or 5 years. Start getting my start having a game plan so our techs know what to expect, so we could all know what to expect and just hang out with people like you guys. I just heard
something very important. Game plan. Anything crystallized yet?
And for me,
anything crystallized yet in a game plan going forward?
Well, I mean, right now it's just attend. Even though we don't do ADAS, we don't do certain the technology out there, but we have to start learning about it. So the game plan's definitely start learning about what's out there, what's going to be out there, and go from there. So that's the initiation of the game plan, but we're working on that as we speak. Thank you. Colleen, are you back with us yet? We have a beautiful picture of you, but we just can't seem to hear her. Matthew, 5 stores, including a collision shop. You've got to stay on track to keep that entire machine running.
Yeah, we just opened our ADAS center last year, so that was something that was a big learning curve for us to get into as well. So that's technically a 6th location for us, but that's been a lot. And I agree with Esteban with the technology and things like that. But for me, I guess I do a lot of the side of the customer side of things. Like, we have to change how we interact with our guests and how we make things more experience focused and more transparency, and continue to push that envelope, because we've been treated like a commodity for so long, and we need to really focus on those things. I think that's what's going to be our future, because the dealerships are taking more. There's less mom and pop shops. Like, a lot of places are buying the shops out, and we have to figure out a way to continue to be competitive in our industry.
Matthew, have you ever sat down with your team and said, put your thinking caps on, nothing's right, nothing's wrong, and said, how are we going to plan for the future? Has anyone done that?
We do it once a year, and I let them come up with ideas, and some of our best ideas we've done is from those meetings.
Can you give us one idea that you recently had that you implemented?
Well, I mean, the ADOS Center was one of our people. They're like, we have to do this, otherwise we're not going to be able to continue to move to the future. And we looked into it. We did it. Some of our great marketing ideas have been from our staff. A lot of people know what I do with my teddy bears. That wasn't my idea. That was one of our staff members. It's thinking about ways to make things different for our guests. That's, I believe, what the future of this is going to be. It's not just fixing your car. It has to be an experience.
Thanks for that, Matthew. Anyone have any questions or comments? We can see all of the chatter in social media. By the way, Greg, I want to go to you. Sometimes we're proactive and then we're reactive to things. What should we be proactive on?
Definitely proactive on looking, keeping that horizon in front of you and making sure that, if you have a legacy mindset and a long-term, you want to be a long-term player, you got to be able to take the time to think and, get involved with the profession to keep your mindset there and grow and be ready for the future. I mean, a lot of us have been in from a technology standpoint from, points and condensers to now it's just modules and, total electronics and the more high tech coming in. And we've all survived. And I think it's because we've had the will to survive and our models are long term. I don't believe that there's no more shops that have a 5-year, 10-year lifespan to them on purpose because they're not going to be there. It takes too much investment, too much training, tooling and all of that. So from a financial standpoint, your ROI is going to be pushed out longer than ever. So, for most of us, it is long term. A lot of people will think that, I see some of the boards and they'll go, here comes another set of technology. We'll be out of business in 5 years and all that stuff. And it's such a negative situation. Yet, if you just look around, the landscape hasn't knocked a lot of us out. And the ones that have been knocked out, well, it could be anything from poor business practice to not wanting to keep up. So, that's the difference. And I think for most good shops out there, they see an opportunity. I mean, I certainly do. I know everybody on the panel here certainly does. For Matt and Colleen and Esteban, they wouldn't have even decided to make the investment into it if they didn't see a future. So we're not buying jobs, we're buying careers, professions, and legacy situations.
Great point. Thanks, Scott. I ask occasionally on my podcast about being a specialist. And I'm wondering your perspective on that. In the future, can we afford to be all makes, all models?
Yeah, that's a tough proposition. And I'm going to say that it's going to be even tougher moving forward because to have the skilled technician to address these different car lines and have all the tooling in place and be at the top of your game and be able to deliver, high level, it's going to be extremely difficult. And especially when you're working with the diagnostic stuff, a lot of times that's not really what's paying the bills. It's all the routine maintenance and services, but you're having to earn some of that. So you may have to look at your business model and look at what Seth is doing. He's more specialized and he's now branching into some other specialties, and I'm sure we'll hear from him, but he's a very successful guy. So it's going to be challenging.
That's a great segue to you, Seth. Scott basically teed up the ball for you.
I mean, yeah, I'm a big proponent of specialization, right? I think I think at some point we're gonna realize you're gonna have a whole lot of general practitioners and a whole lot of specialists, and the general practitioners are gonna do a lot of the light duty stuff and have to send a lot of stuff to the specialty shops, but you'll see the specialty shops really have to raise their rates and pay. And you have a GP doctor that can make 100 to 130, and you got a specialist surgeon that can make 400 or 500. I think you'll see, it might be 20 years down the road, but you'll see some shift towards that. But as far as what's coming, I mean, whether you want it or not, I think the EVs, the electric vehicle stuff, is coming faster than we want to admit, not through the sheer needs of attrition, but through the sheer needs of legislation. And rules and regulations are pushing it faster than it would just naturally happen.
That GM announcement a few weeks back, when I saw that, I realized that, boy, they just handed California that proposition, didn't they?
That was a good one.
You look at California, we're if you look at the fleet, what is it, about 1 or 2% of the across the nation is electrified, but in California it's a much higher number. It's probably 4%, and it's on its way to be 6% here very shortly. And we see a lot of electrified vehicles here. We've been seeing them for years, and so is Carolyn. Carolyn basically is a specialist shop that specializes in the hybrid stuff, and she's at the top of her game as well.
So let me ask everyone, is it too late to become a specialist? Can you do it with the current operation? Should you open up another branch someday and then make that a specialty shop and use it to test the model? Your opinions?
Well, I think at a minimum, you need to start looking at where you can carve, if you have the room, carve out a section or dedicate, ask your team and dedicate one person who's willing to take on that challenge and begin the process of grooming them into that niche, if that's what it is. I mean, you got to have a starting point, and the first, you look internal, see what you can do, where you can put it, and start there. And then if you have to, look at another building, or like Seth is doing, or any MSO, what one shop could be that specialty, and start a whole new, enterprise.
Carolyn, I want you to anchor this question that I have. Can hybrids be a form of specialty?
I mean, we've certainly been able to make some money on them. The topic of the podcast is roadmap to the future, and what hybrids provide is a sort of microcosm of what that looks like. Seth, I'd love to hear your perspective working on Teslas as well, and what you're seeing, because I thought that your comment earlier when we were in backstage was really interesting in terms of average ticket and stuff. But when we look at the service profile, or the failure profile, if you will, for these types of cars, it becomes this, very, very minor service, over and over and over. And then there are these spikes of repair need, like I need a hybrid battery, or I need a transmission, or I need whatever. And we see that when we look at self-drive, autonomy, those cars are going to need basic routine maintenance, and then they're going to have some issue that's going to require some huge spike in diagnostics, calibration. Obviously, you have a type of service provider that can do the tires and can do the fluids. That might not be the same person who can do the diagnostics and do the calibrations, or maybe they are. But the paradigm of having to basically make do in lean times and then be there for the big repair is the challenge that we face, right? And that's something that we've had to solve in my business with efficiencies. So just put in more cars through the operation to be able to make the same amount of money. So high car count, lower average ticket type of model. And that's going to be a trick for folks, especially folks that are used to having a lot more fat on the bone.
Hey, Frank, I want to bring you in, but I really want to dig just a little deeper here. And one of the things that Carolyn just said got me to thinking, could we be specialists in all makes, all models diagnostics and just forget about doing any routine maintenance and brake jobs and alignments or tires, but just be a all makes, all models diag shop? Does that resonate with anyone?
That's actually what we're doing with our ADAS center. It's advanced diagnostics and calibration. So we specialize in doing all the calibrations. We do business to business only, and we go take cars from other shops that can't get figured out, need programming done, whatever it is. And we pulled our absolute best tech out that was the best at doing this, and he's in that building. and it's specializing in that. It's actually, I didn't think it was a take off as fast as it did, but there's a massive need for that. You know, shops being busy and not having enough diagnosticians and the A-level guys. I mean, there's definitely a need for that.
Thanks, Matt. Well, that absolutely lends itself to a specialty business model. Scott Brown, any comment on that?
You know, like I said earlier, the diagnostic stuff, sometimes that's hard to really make money on in general. I mean, in my view, you're earning the ability to do all the other work. And this is what we do every day here. We are constantly educating our clients. The client still doesn't realize that they're driving this super complex machine that needs skilled service providers to provide the special care and proper care. And even, you know, simple things like tire replacement. We're seeing cars that get the wrong tires installed. And it's like, come on, guys, we got to do better in our industry. And so I'm not saying that focusing on diagnostics solely is a bad thing. I think what Matt was talking about, he's built out a business model knowing that there are deficiencies in the marketplace. A lot of these general shops just don't have the skill to do that sort of work. And so he's now doing the B2B, which is great. And I see the same thing is happening right now with the collision space and with the ADAS stuff, because, you know, the collision guys are, if you're in Australia, they're called what do they call them? Panel beaters, right? And then the diagnostic stuff has to go somewhere else. So it's a tough call, but we're talking about the future, and it's going to continue to exponentially grow as far as that technical aptitude requirement to provide service.
Thanks for that, Scott. I want to get back to this, but Frank, I want to bring you in. There's no doubt we don't survive without our customers, and Frank has more passion than anyone that I know about developing a great customer experience. Frank, what could you share with us?
Well, we're going to have to elevate. I want to go back to sort of how we've done business regarding probing our staff. That's great. But we need to probe our community. We need to probe the hospitality industry. We need to probe restaurateurs, because the service experience will evolve. Now, if you took this in a chunk, the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, we are a little ways. But I think when we start thinking about ideas, we need to be embedded in our communities and probing those very people that may give us some solid advice about how they see their service experience. For example, years ago, you know, we do a lot of clinics, like many of you and many in the chat room there. A lot of our people, when we probed our community, said, well, we wanted something as simple as a recycling truck, you know, on a Saturday, so we can recycle our stuff. So how well we position the experience must include, what is our community thinking? Number 2, you know, ROI is important. We got to stay healthy. But the new model forward, especially for younger operators, is the COI, and that's the cost of ignoring. That's what this is about. And it's been like that for decades and years. Now, technically speaking, we've pounded our chest in the background when we transitioned from carburetors to fuel injection, and now this ADAS and autonomy and connected car. One thing that it will be different, a lot more different, is how we model the service experience. What are we going to do? Hopefully not soon, but definitely mid-century for those that are still around. The oil service, where is that going? In fact, I'm sure that Seth Thorson has looked at the math and looked at the models from that perspective. I'm sure that Carolyn has done the same in the hybrid arena. What is our industry to do moving forward when we eliminate some of those frequent car count service opportunities? So I say start back with your community, and I really believe that partnerships outside of the industry is going to be critical by way of the consumer experience.
I love your point to me, replacing the oil service with family fun-based experiences. Take us on a mental trip there.
Well, first things first, let's not reinvent the wheel. You guys know, Seth, Carolyn, you know this, everyone else in the chat, China's got us beat currently, and look at Europe at what they're doing, percentages per capita by way of EVs. Look at the business models that are starting to crop up centered around that service experience. You guys are familiar with NIO, a cutting edge company out of China. I think market value, they're 4th or 5th as a car company. Their future forward, their idea of a battery recharge is nix it. We're going to replace the battery quicker than it takes the time to fill up at your local gas station. So what opportunities do we have if this technology, like for example with NIO, comes here? How does this service experience look for our community? It's going to be more than just tires, sensors, glass. It has to incorporate a whole experience. And I'm looking at on paper, I'm not saying I'm going to be around for the next 50 years. Maybe. I got a new heart. We'll see how that goes. But my point is, we have to evolve that much more in a service experience. And of course, it should be fun. There's not a single one of us in this business that still doesn't get the joy of cold steel, of lifting that chain up, or in the case of Carolyn, analyzing data and saying, how can we do this whole software thing better? Or Seth, how do I get more Teslas in? Elon Musk is cutting edge, right? He's forward thinking. How do I get more of that pie? So we need to be connected, more so outside into the community. And don't forget the cost of ignoring, for sure.
Colleen, are you with us? Colleen, are you there? Oh, boy. Yeah, she is. Well, talk to us. Customer service experience. I know you're big on that. And we are still having problems. Hey, no doubt she's very frustrated. I am sure of that. And you're holding up a really good smile. Thank you. While we wait on you to get things right at your end, Greg, I can't help but think miles driven, less cars, more leasing. How are we going to survive and have a decent ARO? And how many clients do we need to have as EVs become more important?
Well, this is filled with water. I probably would have it filled with bourbon, but for that question. But we're going to have to put our thinking caps on as we deal with, the miles driven per capita, meaning how many miles a person drives. It really does. It's the main factor I think of, and for those of us in more urban type communities, we see a reduction in miles now. The COVID incident has definitely amplified that. And again, I go back to Delaware versus California. We're 50th in miles driven per capita, where California, I think, is number 1, Texas 2. That goes back and forth. So, what do you do when a car is 10 years old with 80,000 miles on it? Where does it go? How many times? What's our frequency? And compound that with, maintenance-free vehicles to a degree. I mean, we have to learn what is going to be maintenance. What do we need to do for a car that does not get driven, but yet still needs to be taken care of? I don't know what conditions there will be. All I know is that we will need to have more cars floating through the service bays to keep up the volume or the dollar volume that we are experiencing now. I think it's going to be difficult to a degree, and even the vehicles that are driving or will be driving, who's driving them? Are they autonomous vehicles? Are they fleet-owned vehicles? A lot of questions there. So,
Carolyn said to me, good news, we're the technologists. And that really kind of laid me over, Carolyn. Help me understand the power that gives us.
Well, I mean, we were sharing kind of all of this change is coming at us, right? And we're scared because we're going to have to figure out how to address it all. And the reality is that those challenges and the complexity of the car park today and going forward that challenge is an opportunity, right? Like that is essentially our business, is to be able to fix the problems for increasingly complicated vehicles, which means that we're not going anywhere. Self-driving cars will not be self-fixing cars. And so, like anything, you have a choice. You can either learn how to fix disc brakes, or you can go out of business. You can learn how to, diagnose a CAN bus, or you can go out of business. You can learn how to work on more complicated vehicles. There's plenty of opportunity for that. Certainly when we see increasing miles driven, obviously COVID has been a anomaly, but when you look at the predictions for miles driven out into the future, we're going to have more cars and more miles driven, not less, as we go along. Of course, there's a lot of questions around who's going to own those cars and who's going to be making those buying decisions inside of our repair shops. And that's a separate problem that we need to try to address. But certainly in terms of, being the technologists, that puts us in an incredibly advantaged position. And obviously we have the challenge to continue to meet the challenge, but it's really good news, good job security for us.
It seems to me that the opportunity is there and we can go and pick the right pathway. I'm sorry, I'm also producing the show and there's some beeping going on in here, so sorry about that. I think the opportunity is great, but if we don't go down the right pathway, if we're not, again, it goes back to the power of the associations. ASCCA is an example. The collaboration that happens in the networking side between the members and the meetings and the guest speakers and the message that is driven, I think it's going to help people. I think, team, tell me I'm right or wrong, but networking is going to be one of the strongest proof of concepts going forward. I don't think we could do this alone. And if we're ever afraid of sharing our secret sauce, then you don't deserve to be in business, because we have to carry each other and help each other along the way. It was Craig Van Battenberg a few years ago. We were chatting, he's a big hybrid teacher, and Craig said, Carm, put your thinking cap on. 30 years down the road, the autonomous car is going to come in the bay. These sensors are going to read it, and it's either going to go straight out and it's okay. And this happens at 2:00 in the morning because it drives itself there, or it's going to make a right and it's going to have a component changed. And he said, if you're still in business and you're doing that, you're going to need like 10,000 customers in your database per bay if you're going to make any money or have a successful business versus the 1,000 you may have now. And I think that's one of the things we have to think about, is keeping ourselves relevant with training, the right equipment, maybe being specialists, but also growing and growing and growing to the point where if one day we may wake up and see that EVs have 25% market share, Scott, and we don't have the client base to carry our business.
Yeah, so let me just touch on the networking part. I've lived my life networking, and I can attest to the fact that you can exponentially grow your knowledge and experience base by networking with other fellow professionals that have the same mindset and drive. And this truly is what you're going to need to leverage. You're going to leverage your personal network and your extended network to help you continue your experience growth. And also understand the trends. We've got to pay attention and be able to pivot and adapt and improvise along the way. And through your networks, you're going to be able to use that as your spyglass into the future.
Colleen, are you with us?
Yes, finally I made it, guys. But you have to love this. So being the millennial that I am, you are on my cell phone. So just bear with me, because I realize all of my internet sucks, even being hardwired here. So I really apologize for being late in the game.
Well, catch up. You have the floor.
Great. No, and I love how you call on me first with having internet issues. I was like, I have so much to say, and then whoop, see you later.
Hey, listen, so I'm preparing for the show, about an hour before. I looked at all the notes and I said, who am I going to put on first? And it was you, and maybe I jinxed you.
Yeah, leave it to the millennial to bring up the rear and have technical issues. Lucky me.
So you've been able to hear in and out the discussion that we're having, and
Right.
again, I asked you a question a little while ago about your passion for the customer. How do you see the future in that interaction working?
So I have been hearing bits and pieces. So good stuff. I really liked what Frank said about looking into customer service people, like hotel people, because obviously that's where I came from. I really believe that customer service is going to be the winner in all of this stuff. The technology, yeah, we all know the black and white being tech, that you have to learn ADAS, you have to learn the EVPs, but everyone neglects the customers. The customers don't know what they're buying. Even at the dealership, I have customers, because we're a specialty shop, so good key on that too, Scott. The Volvos. No one spends time with customers at the dealership to educate them on their customers. All the time they come in and ask me, how does this work? How does that work? Because they're so jam-packed with technology, and salespeople spend 5 to 10 minutes with you, and then they're on to the next. So I really think taking care of our customers first and foremost, even with the little stuff to the big stuff, and educating them is going to be huge.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Frank, you and Colleen, no doubt, are on the same line, but I think every one of us on this panel realize that exceptional customer service is one of the keys, and making it fun. And price isn't an issue when you have a great value proposition, and the experience that you provide is what it is. I mean, Matthew, you could speak volumes about your customer thing and the bear. I mean, listen, we've all done episodes together on Remarkable Results Radio, every one of us together. And if anyone who's never heard any of my guest shows, and especially the one that we did with Colleen just a few weeks ago, and Matthew, maybe 6-7 months ago, Matthew, about we also had a great tour of your place. What's your opinion, Matthew, of the future of customer service?
It's got to be the most important thing. Fixing cars is not, I mean, I think it goes back to, if you are honest with people, you give them a great experience, and you mess up on their car, they're going to be like, okay, you made a mistake. But if you don't hit the mark on the customer service, it doesn't matter if you fix the car perfect or not. And the focus has to be 100% on the customer experience. I don't care. That's, to me, the future of this business is not fixing cars, and it's not the technology. That's been changing since the car was invented. What has changed, those people's shift in what they want to experience when they come into a place. They're going to remember what they felt, how you made them feel. They're not going to remember that you fixed their car, or you did anything special, you put candy in it. That's not the part of it. They want to feel something, and they want to feel like they're part of the process and everything that goes with that.
It's amazing. People are tuning in to hear us talk about the future of automotive repair. And we're talking about customer service. And I find it fascinating where this is going. And I think it's profound to realize the talent and the successful shop owners that we have here. And we're hammering that. Frank, one of your notes to me was vehicle-based subscription partnerships. And I love the way you put words together with powerful meaning. Help me understand that.
Well, first things first, I've always said, put us in government, we'll take care of everything. That's what we do, this group of automotive mechanical maniacs. That's how we are. And I think that is a capital N in network. I think younger operators, we can take a lot of cues from them. A lot of us 20, 30, and 40 years ago, we stuck onto some bad habits. And so it is critical. And so, yes, put automotive aftermarket people in government. We'll square everything away. But
I agree.
Regarding your question, what was the question? Help me out.
Vehicle-based subscription partnerships. Talk to me about that.
Yes, we cannot let Jeff Bezos have the only subscriptions. In all seriousness, it is critical that, again, going back to community, what's the insurance agent doing regarding subscriptions as EVs come along? The business model, and I'm sure Seth can speak on this a little more, those that are already playing in that EV space, how do I, as a local community rock star, connect with subscriptions? I'm not thinking about fixing the cars. I have people who can worry about that for training. I'm always looking at ways for how we, the consumer, is doing business. So I think subscriptions are going to be huge. And I know some of you have already dabbled in this, but how do I make my corner shop home base for EV charging? Now, I may not work on that warranted Tesla, but guess what? If they're coming into my house, we're going to convert them. And so how do we adopt some of the cost-effective ways right now? And I think having a lead on subscriptions, what's that look like? How can I be a seat at the table, and a charging station? So currently, I've got an email in, and maybe some of you can help me, from one of the EV providers that can put 2 or 3 stations right here, and in fact, kick it up notches, thinking that, okay, what if workplaces already have that? Well, guess what? Let's get in shape, people. I'm going to have some bicycles. You can rent the EV bike and get to work while you EV charge. And so all of these things are just really meeting the consumer. They're not meeting me. I have to meet them, and all of us can agree to that. So I think there's opportunities in that arena.
Thank you for that. I mean, I think that is the stuff that we need to do to put up here in the gray cells, and think beyond the box, go out and break it. I remember doing an interview, gentleman in Seattle bought some property near his shop, very expensive piece of property. And I said, what are you going to do with it? He says, I'm going to build a parking garage. And I said, and why is that? He says, when all those cars in all those lots that are going to be traveling all by themselves and subscription, and I'm going to have a place for someone to store them or hold them and have them come to and fro. And so that's outbound thinking, just like you, subscription. Wow. You pick up the car, bring it in for charging, and you charge a subscription fee for that level of concierge service. And what Frank, I think, just said that we need to think about, Greg, and I saw you shaking your head, is why do we have to give that level of concierge service away when you got to pay for that kind of stuff no matter where you go outside the automotive?
Well, I think, the key is, like Frank alluded to, is that we are all part of some subscription. Why not vehicle service? I think all of our shop management platforms, most of it, and Carolyn can attest to this, is that we have such a great wealth of data that we can predict, well, with a good bit of confidence, the miles that they do drive per year, and how do we base a maintenance plan around the miles they drive. I'm currently trying to actually do a subscription plan with a few partners in here, and I see Todd Westerland, but we're close to really getting that together, because I believe that we can customize down to the miles driven for each client. And the client, you may have a vehicle, 2 BMWs driven by 2 separate people that are driving 2 separate kind of patterns. So they have the ability to make a subscription for them. Now, will that translate into EVs when it comes down the road? Hey, if you start there, you just build out. I'm sure it can. So I'm really hot on subscriptions. I really am, and I think that now the elements are in place that we don't have to rely. Well, we can compete with Bezos, as Frank says. He doesn't have to have the only subscription service out there. I believe we can do it. I believe that our software vendors can bring that to fruition a lot better. And then we've got a whole other model.
This is good stuff. Talking about the future. Who else wants to chime in on any other subscription ideas?
We're actually rolling our subscription stuff out. I get drug into these known as the technical guy, but I do a whole lot of other customer service stuff. We actually launched our concierge service, and we are launching our monthly recurring revenue subscription-based service very soon after that. It includes a whole lot of benefits. To us, it's more creating a lifestyle around it. Our subscription-based service is not as much revolved around the car. It's revolved around, we host a show every year called the Fast and the Furious at a brewery. Our monthly subscribers will get VIP access to that, special placement for their cars at the show. So we're creating more of a lifestyle. It includes ongoing discounts and obviously ties in all their automotive stuff, but we're really trying to put on some special events and special things for our clients that it becomes more of a club. So we're doing some different things with our revenue club, and that will be something that we're rolling out very quickly. Our leadership team has been working really, really hard on it. And we're soft rolling it out with our concierge service, which is $29.99. Pick up your car, bring it in, service whatever it needs, drop it off at your door. People pay almost that much to DoorDash food to their house. They'll pay $29.99 to pick up their car, although you'll get free concierge service as part of our membership club. So we're going to roll a whole bunch of things into.
So Seth, let me. You don't have to answer this if you don't want. I'd like to dig a little deeper. How expensive is it?
It will have 3 different tiers, and it'll be on a monthly subscription. So you're going to have an option of anywhere from $39 to $69 a month, depending on what types of tiers you're looking at. And then that will just be on a reoccurring revenue. We're building out the back site with our credit card processor to automatically bill every month, along with follow-ups and things like that. So it's a process.
I love it. Hey, I want to go a little deeper on that if we can, because I'm sure you all have something to say, but I want to thank Rocky Cominian. I just want to update you. About a week ago, Rocky calls me up. He says, he texts me. He says, we got to talk. Within 10 minutes, we were on the phone. He goes, we got to do a roundtable, and I don't have to be on it, but I got all these names in my head, and they're just floating me. And so you're all here. You're all here. It's a wonderful thing. And we want to talk about the future of auto repair. Thank you for ASCCA for their for hosting this and at least bringing the idea to us. Great association out in California. And we're talking about networking here and the value and the power of it. And I'm not sure, I can't remember which one of you said it, but I am so into youth this year in 2021 on the podcast. I mean, I want to interview as many young people that are shop owners and technicians as I can, Colleen, Esteban, Matt, and the like, because you are our future. And so when Rocky calls me up and says, I want to talk about the future of repair, I goes, let me at it, because we can't talk enough about this. Please, one thing that I think is critical is that the senior members of our industry have a lot of wisdom to give. They have been there and done it. And I don't know about you, Greg, Seth, Scott, you've all lost a lot of money trying things. Trust me, right? And we want to help people not lose that kind of money someday. I don't know, Carolyn, you probably, everything you touch turns to gold, but and I'll never forget who was it was Kevin Eckler one day who says, I lost about $150,000 in the first 10 years of being in business, and then finally I woke up. And he wants to give back now all the time. And that's why we're all here together. We're not bashful as an industry. It's been amazing, people that want to pay it forward. And I know give back. My friend Jerry Kazai is on here with us, and he doesn't like me to say give back, so it's always pay it forward. And so thank you all for being here. We've got a whole bunch of time yet that we've allocated for this. Where else do we? Who haven't we heard from in a bit? Matt. What when you think of training and the hours you have to put into training, and you think of what's going with virtual and leader led, have you ever thought about bringing trainers into your operation so that you can have the exact training that you want?
Yeah, we've done that. We've also tried to develop our own. I mean, there's a lot of resources. I mean, sometimes we do a lot where we'll send maybe 1 or 2 guys to something. And because we have nearly 30 technicians, what we ask them when they go to something, that they come back and help develop our own program so we can teach it to everybody else. We found that that's a very cost-effective way to get the training applied without sending a million people somewhere. Obviously, we built a classroom in one of our buildings. It holds up to almost 80 people. And we did that with the intention of having our own classes and building our own stuff out. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff available, and obviously relationships with other shops as well. I mean, sometimes one of these guys has a rock star tech that could help teach something to our guys and back and forth. And I think that's where this networking and all these pieces come together, as well as continue to build this out and become stronger as a automotive unit, I guess, best way to say it.
So this individualized training, is that going to be, I mean, we know what's going on with virtual. We know what happened with COVID and why we all went to virtual. There's talk about hybrid virtual training, meaning we can get a little bit of both leader led and if you don't want to travel. But let me, did I ever tell you that I get on my soapbox occasionally? Huh? Did you ever realize that I get up on my soapbox? I've been wanting to show that. I think what COVID did for us and things that we can learn is many that never wanted to be involved in networking and many who did not want to travel to an event took upon themselves to say, oh, let me try this with my guys, my girls. It's just a team watch, if you will. And I think we dragged some naysayers on the sidelines into training, be it management and or be it technical. And when we get ready to travel again, and I hear a lot of rumors about stuff that's getting ready to launch, will we continue to keep virtual inside as an option for us? It may have a completely different model and how things you pay for things, but I think training is a topic we need to talk about here, what it looks like, how it's going to work, and are we going to go back to the value of leader led? Are we zoomed out, like Frank said earlier off camera? So I want to put this challenge of training in front of us because I think we talked about it a little earlier, but I want to go a little deeper. Who wants to start?
I'll jump in. So, I think that the training, in my opinion, needs to have some incentivization behind it. And this is going probably back about 6 years or so. We were at a NASTF general meeting at Vision one year, and we brought in all of these folks to talk about where's the future of the technician. And this was the beginning of what was called the Road to Great Technicians that NASTF is sponsoring. And we've got some OEMs that are sharing some of their models. Because this career, especially in the aftermarket, is so fragmented that there's really no pathway for a technician. And as the technology begins to skyrocket, I think there's going to have to be some sort of requirements or minimum standards that the technicians are going to have to obtain in order to provide services on certain vehicles. And my presentation that I made at that time was to kind of follow what the FAA does for their technicians. Their technicians have to become certified, but once they're done, once they're licensed, they're good. They're good for life. But they've got internal things that can happen. The FAA, for one, they've got a wings program where they basically push out a lot of training and they incentivize the technicians to continue to take training. And in turn, the industry actually rewards service centers by gaining discounts for, say, their liability insurance or tools and equipment or what have you. And so it all kind of pays forward. And I would love to see something like that fueled within our industry to help us grow and continue to thrive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes. I was saying, it would be great if we could have some kind of program like that, Scott. And I know that you've been pushing that message for a while. I from a training perspective of it being virtual, or we're going to go back to, handshakes and all that stuff and live in person. I'm finding the virtual stuff convenient. We just did a couple of series with lunch and learns for an hour, and the guy sat down, and while they're eating, there's a live training event going on, which I found great, and they enjoyed it. I think that's where video and virtual can learn how to be better, more efficient in what they deliver, so we don't get we don't zoom out and get bored to death and roll our eyes when another virtual webinar takes place. So I think it's here to stay. I think it's going to mature, and there'll be an evolution in it. But the one-on-one and the live events are definitely needed. There's no question. Just from a networking perspective, your peer-to-peer networks, which seem to be evolving as well with some of the younger techs that are coming up and what they're developing. So it's exciting.
I would say something here. So here we are, a bunch of talented service-related industry types who need to stay with the camaraderie of service-related events, brainstorming, thinking, over drinks, over cupcakes. We cannot get away. I know it's big and bulky. A lot of the event planners, they're scratching their heads right now. I get that. But for a service-related industry to stop meeting in person and allow, just my humble opinion, this digital world of Zoom, which can work in many ways. I can consume it on my time. I get that. But we can never get away from the in-house. These are where the creatives come about. These are where all of the juices flow. We cannot get that from this sort of 2D kind of situation. And there's a place for digital. I absolutely agree with Scott. There has to be a better way for incentivizations. So instead of parts manufacturing bonusing us on volume discounts based upon what we buy, and I know there's some deviations from that, I would love a different outlet for bonus structure by way of how I'm tiered in that conversation for technology. So my point is, we can never stop meeting as a humanity at the bar, if you will. This is where the great ideas can come from and stem from. So I hope that we don't get stuck on Zoom. I'm going to therapy for this. I'm telling you right now.
I don't think we'll get stuck on it. I think it will be a tool that we have in place, and it'll have its purpose. It's just like anything else. It comes out of the gate, and everybody is just zoomed all the way over here. Now there's going to be that fatigue, and we're going to come back to a means with it. You can't take the place of a live event. My goodness, what would it be like if all of us here were live in a room? How much laughter and fun would there be? I mean, it would be an entertaining show, forever that we'd remember. And
cocktails,
and,
cocktails,
cocktails. Yes, cocktails. That absolutely be a must. But it's the live events are absolutely necessary. I can't imagine what the first one will be like when all of us decide to be there. I mean, they could just put an extended day and just go, hey, it's a networking day. Ain't nothing going on, but just go out and, get your fun on. And that's what it would be like, because we would all need that.
Carm, I had a question I just wanted to pose to the group because I think this is important. I think we're going to see this in the next 24 to 36 months. And Seth and Carolyn can chime in on this. As we look at the EV platforms, regionally, it seems that the cities have more federal dollars. The cities seem to have more injection to what will be the needed infrastructure for that. How does the suburbs of the country or shops that may be 80 miles from a major city, how are they going to be able to survive when what I believe will be this sort of fragmented geography? I had one of the biggest energy companies in the country who is currently working on inner city charge stations. And I thought that was wonderful. But again, that's federal dollars. How do we see that going? And Carm, I just had to ask that because a lot of folks are not connected. They're working on tractors. They're working on conventional that regionally faring out. And do we have this division?
My shops are not actually in the city. My shops are 20 to 30 miles outside the city center, which allows people to come to us. I mean, we got people driving cars down from North Dakota. We got cars driving down from Matt's area. But I mean, it would certainly be easier to get together with Matt and go, man, I got bunch of customers up here. Let me use a bay and come up there and do my specialized thing and get the heck out of Dodge, and do that. But EVs, from my standpoint, we had a 2021 Tesla and leaking oil. They have what people fail to understand. I had an discussion with a couple of industry people on a board. They have oil. They have coolant. We have coolant leaks. We have door handles that break. We have suspension that breaks. There is brakes that need to be serviced every 2 years because the brakes don't get used enough. There is immense amounts of services on these things. The AC system is what cools the battery and conditions the battery. The AC system is absolutely critical. The desiccant pack that needs to be changed every 2 years. There's immense amounts of service on the EVs that gets the car in a regular basis to get the car serviced. That generates a lot of other revenue opportunities. I got one right now, it's leaking coolant. I got one that $11,000 rear motor Tesla quoted. We're rebuilding the bearings. There's immense amounts of service on these things that come up. I liken it to the argument I had, or the discussion I had with somebody. You had the guy that used to go out on the lake and cut off ice and bring ice to everybody to keep their food cold. He kept cutting ice and kept cutting ice. He watched the refrigerator come on and said, well, nobody's going to buy those stupid refrigerators. They're really expensive. Nobody's going to spend the money on those things. I'm going to keep selling them ice. Instead of looking at, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity to be in the refrigeration business, not the ice business, the business of keeping things cold. We're in the business of people's personal transportation. I tend to look at, if you don't see that EVs are coming, you're going to be in trouble. And you may not have to do all EVs. You may have to do 5%, but you may just have to keep expanding that. And that's, if that answers your question, Frank, that's where I see it.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there is sort of a finite area. We talk about some of the things that we won't be servicing, and you brought up a chock full of information about how an operator can kind of transition towards that. The question I would have, and many of us would have, is how are you allocating for parts, and what is Tesla's position? And for that matter, how do we see the EVs from a manufacturing point of view? Scott, perhaps you can chime in regarding how we are treated in the aftermarket. How do you get by with that?
So I'll let Seth tell us a little story about Tesla parts here. Share your knowledge, please.
Tesla does not want to sell parts. I am taking parts off vehicles, and I'm working with vendors to produce our own line of parts because I'm tired of fighting Tesla. It takes me 3 weeks to get a part. In the meantime, they will sometimes call the customer, get the customer in and go, we have that part at the service center. Meanwhile, you can't buy that part from the service center. So when we talk about industries and working with associations such as ACSCA, such as NASDAQ, we got to stop fighting these associations and work with them to be able to get access and put the pressure on them, because right now, some of them are doing very unfair trade practices. I saw Carolyn shake her head. There's more of it going on than I really want to get into today, but they are doing some very unethical things right now.
What are you doing
because
for
nobody's
Stanford,
attacking them.
Seth? For Tesla?
Building my own.
I got a guy too. I can introduce you.
Yeah, we have most of the CAN commands sniffed and built, and so we're doing resets and sending our own CAN commands. Problem is, every time Tesla releases an over-the-air update, it breaks what we have to do, and we have to re-engineer it. So it's a cat and mouse game. We're hoping to have something more automated that will be for sale generally to get people into it, but there is a severe issue right now with a lot of things that resounds around Tesla. And again, if you want to be a pioneer, I'm spending immense amount of dollars to hopefully better people down the road because they'll be able to benefit from this.
You know what this reminds me of? The Jurassic Park movie, the first one, when they found the egg and the egg broken open, and it wasn't supposed to happen. And the greatest comment that came right after that scene, and I'll never forget it, it's emblazoned in my mind: nature found a way. And that's what Seth is doing. It's entrepreneurial, it's capitalism, it's we have to have, who's in my way? Oh, forget about it. Let's go forward, hard charging. Seth, do you have a bodyguard?
No, I'll borrow Monique from Caroline.
because you're doing some really cool things, and you know, I guess we're all going to be happy that one day that you're gonna be able to help us all. And I guess it just goes to show you that people need their vehicles fixed, and they need to have it fixed. It goes back to our washing machine stopped working, and it took a month to get the part because it was somehow belabored from China during COVID, and we had to wait a month. We want our cars back today.
Tesla service is out 3 to 4 weeks. My wife's car has a broken sensor, and they told me 3 to 4 weeks under warranty. We got customers that the window's down. Window regulator is broken. It's 30 below zero. Tesla's like, yeah, first available appointments in a week and a half. So sad. So obviously we're getting those customers in, and they don't care if the car's under warranty at that point. Just fix it.
Mm-hmm. How are you marketing to those Tesla customers?
I own a couple. I go to Tesla meets. I go to their forums. I participate in their clubs. We have lists. I mean, we do a ton of marketing. I got billboards up. I mean, we do some heavy marketing.
I mean, I think the Tesla's an example of a company that's not a service company. You know, their core competence is the technology on their cars, right? They're a car manufacturer, and you know, we've already seen this with every other auto manufacturer, which is if the dealership could have taken our business, they would have done it a long time ago, and they never have, and they never will, because they screw it up every time. They always screw it up. The aftermarket does a better job. We're more competitive. We're more creative, to your point, Carm, in terms of nature finding a way. So, you know, it's only a matter of time till those cars start to leave the sort of Tesla ecosystem and start moving out into the aftermarket, and we'll have solutions that are as good or better than what Tesla's offering. And then, you know, ultimately they'll have to comply in order to keep their customers happy. It's interesting, you know, my expertise is on Prius, and we work a whole bunch with Toyota, and Toyota has a very different point of view. You know, Toyota is very focused on, if we have a high quality vehicle that is a delight to own from day one till year 20, you're more likely to want to buy a Toyota the next time you're looking for a car. And if owning a Tesla is a pain in the ass, well, then you're not going to want to buy another Tesla. And obviously there's a bunch of other electric vehicles flooding into the market. There's a ton of options now. NIO is a great example. I was not familiar with them, Frank. I just opened their website. I mean, their stuff looks slick. And so the market will solve some of these problems for us. What was the other thing that I wanted to add? You know, we look at ownership structures. That was another topic that I think we wanted to touch on, Carm. So forgive me for jumping ahead if you were waiting. But you know, we understand that people's desires to own their own vehicle is a question, you know, that has yet to be answered. And then obviously, as the manufacturers are controlling more of the operation of the vehicle vis-a-vis, you know, autonomy, there's this question that automakers are going to be responsible for the insurance that is on the car. They're going to be responsible for potentially servicing the car. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to service the car. They may very well still use the aftermarket to get that car serviced, but they may be a broker for those types of exchanges. And so, you know, we're looking at all the different players that are in the market. We've got OEs that currently exist. We see newcomers like NIO, like Tesla, et cetera. Then we see like the Googles, the Apples, the Lyfts, the Ubers of the world that have an idea of how this is all going to shake out. In all of these cases, none of these companies are knowledgeable about how to fix a car. They know how to make a car, they know how to handle a network, but they're not very good at servicing a car. And as a result, they kind of take servicing the car for granted. It's like the old joke around the Jaguar that came out that had a rear differential with no drain plug. And it was like, you idiots, like, you're going to need to service this. Like, this fantasy that this car is not going to need anything is just not realistic. And so, you know, the extent to which these folks are going to continue to try and control what happens, but ultimately, you know, they need us. And it will be interesting to see how we ultimately cultivate those relationships directly with those vendors. But I do think there is a relationship to be had.
I agree. And you know, just look at the Tesla model. They're going to reach an inflection point where that, they're already saturated, like Seth said. They're booked out so far ahead. Some customers are just going to say, screw it, I want to just take it to somebody else. Well, how do we look to a company like Tesla or any of these other newcomers? I think us as an industry, we need to get our act together. Maybe we need to have a better presentation. Well, maybe we're certifying ourselves to a specific standard, and really looking well at them. Toyota is a great example, as Carolyn said. They realize they've got such a massive car park out there, and of course, all the OEMs they only service about 30% of their car park out there, and we're scooping up the rest. And so they went out of their way to make sure that we had the tools and the knowledge and information to deliver that service at that exceptional level. So, I think that there's going to be opportunities out there, but I think we as an association, we need to get all these independents off their island and kind of get together and start to move the industry, at a higher level, so that we are recognized as somebody that we can trust or can be trusted and work together with these new manufacturers.
Boy, that's an entire show, Scott. No doubt. And maybe we should get back together and tackle that subject someday in the future. But I've got a comment on Tesla and all the great dialogue. Thank you, Seth and Scott, and all the great talk about Tesla. I just don't, tell me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think our audience needs to say, these guys are telling me I need to get involved in Tesla. First of all, I think you should find out if you're not working on hybrids, don't get involved in Teslas yet. And if you're not working on EVs, don't get involved in Tesla yet. It's almost like there needs to be a progression. If you're not doing some of the basic stuff in automotive repair and you haven't gone to school for hybrids and you haven't tackled that, Carolyn, you and I did a great episode, and I can't remember the number, but you brought up this fabulous idea. And in essence, you said, if you want to get involved in Tesla, Greg, I think, were you on that show? I can't remember. Or you were in the audience.
Absolutely.
Go out and buy a second gen. What was the year?
2009 and up, right?
2004, 2009, second gen Prius. Yeah.
So go buy one, add it to your staff, make it a loaner car, or drive it around, tear it apart, figure it out, and put this, we repair hybrids. And if you're not doing that, I mean, to me, we're talking about the future, but the future is now when it comes to hybrids and when it comes to all the EVs that are going to start appearing. And I guess we want to thank Seth as a great friend of the industry for doing all this work, because you're going to keep us in it. So thank you for doing all the stuff that you're doing. You brought up ownership, Carolyn. Who's going to own the vehicle? I mean, it's a great point. Got our tech companies are in the automotive business today, and I can't remember which one of you mentioned the number of leases that are out there. Does any of that scare you? And if it does, what are we gonna do to handle that?
I'd like to chime in and tell you, I had the privilege to speak with, as a guest on our show, Gridlock Sam Schwartz, who was a New York City traffic commissioner. We had him on the show because he had a provocative statement in his book, and he said, by mid-century, our grandkids, our kids, will laugh at us because you could be arrested for driving in certain municipalities. Now, I realize that's a large, scandalous statement, but I do believe there is going to be a shift with subscriptions. If you told the average consumer, do you really need to own something that totally wastes your time and money, would you be able to pay X amount of dollars to subscribe to a flavor of vehicles for you? Now, realizing that most need to consider cost and things like that, and we have a whole segment of society that still believes that they want to drive and own that. But as we progress, will my daughter eventually say, you know, Dad, I don't want to own it. I'm just going to subscribe to it because it's just like leasing. Seth's raising his hands. He's anxious to go. Seth.
No, I'm not. I was itching my head, but Volvo and BMW and Cadillac all canceled their subscription plans. They launched them, couldn't get them off the ground. They all said, nope, we're done with that. Tesla said, we will not sell our Model 3s at the end of lease. We want them back for a robo fleet. Every single Tesla Model 3 is for sale at the end of lease now. I think the manufacturers rolled that back, but I'd love to hear from Esteban here. He's been sitting over there.
Oh, yeah. No, it's interesting to hear all you guys. It's amazing to me to just hear all this, and it freaks me out. You know, being a younger being a younger owner, you know, I still appreciate just every age. Doesn't matter the age that's in our industry, especially associated with ASCCA. Everybody thinks so modern, you know, have a modern take on anything, and that us being the younger owners, we implement it in our shop, and it just makes us look great. But I just want to thank everybody, and I'm just hearing now like, wow, this stuff's amazing, and thank everybody for paving the way. But yeah, training and EVs and customer service, and you know, this industry's full of everything. It's unimaginable, you know, what it takes to have a shop, and then all the angles that we have to you know, take to run it right, and keep our customers safe, and keep our employees safe, and keep everybody safe, and make sure that everybody is safe. So yeah, anyways, I got a little lost, and I'm just in awe, and I'm listening.
We are so happy you are here partaking in this. It's easy to run a shop, isn't it, Esteban?
Yeah, somewhat. It's easier when you're involved, but it's fun. It's fun, and it's a challenge, but it's crazy.
He said the magic words. It's easy when you're involved, right?
Easier.
And
yeah.
you know, I'm happy to have you on this panel, and now you have a brand new network to hang with here. I know you know a bunch of people that are with us, but there's some ones from outside of California, like Greg and Frank and Seth, that are now in your friend group. Isn't that cool? Well, here's Seth is back. Ownership, you know, to the point, Frank, I loved, by the way, I think I saw that quote, or I think I saw that show of yours, Frank. Pretty darn scary that, you know, by mid-century, and you know what, I have to tell you something, 29 years away, that's going to go by like that. I mean, I may not be around, but you know, many of you.
Vision is, and there's so much by way of great talent and cutting edge individuals. Seth, I have to put you on a pedestal. Scott Brown, I got to put you on a pedestal. You guys are pushing the envelope, and I think for younger operators, God, we back in the day, I mean, it was you know, magazines, and that was that. Internet was limited, but the fact that we can have these panel discussions and have a vast library like Carm has with remarkable results, this really keeps us that much ahead. I mean, for God's sakes, if it wasn't for Mitch Schneider sharing his stories back in the day, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have quit, you know, because we can all relate. But the fact is this: we will evolve. We can't forget our service roots. That won't change. It still is a human to human kind of thing. And again, I want to drink this and eat this over the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years. If I can swallow those increments, I can plan and guide my business model. And maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe we do something crazy. Maybe we incorporate a restaurant or a fun park, and it's a plug and play and get your car charged and battery recycled. You know, that sounds goofy, but I think we as creatives and entrepreneurs, sky's the limit on what we can do. And again, I have to say, let's pay attention to what I know. Regulation's a little different, obviously, in our country. But let's look at what China's doing. Let's look at what the Europeans are doing. We talked recently on the show about this sort of wireless charging stations. Now, I know, Seth, you can probably speak more on that than I, but where's that going? And then can we incorporate that somehow, some way in our business? You know, the manhole covers I have in the front of the shop, can I convert that? Well, one is parking. To charge wirelessly without being shtick. How far?
That's one heck of a crazy idea.
So it's just
thank you. Frank.
Yeah, it's happening in Sweden. Sweden has a section of road that's 2 miles. I forget the town, Golten, Sweden, somewhere over there, that is playing with this sort of wireless induction. And, you know, they're testing it. So I think that we should look at Europe, and I say China. Obviously, the government and regulation is a whole different ballgame over there. But I'm sure, Seth, you're looking at those arenas. Carolyn, you're looking at those arenas from a data software point of view. And we're going to see this, I think, quicker over there than we are going to see it here.
I want to make a comment on something Frank said about thinking that 3 to 5 year and then, 6 year and up. I just want to share with you, create a 3 to 5 year plan, call it your strategic plan. We're here to help shop owners figuring out the future, create a 3 to 5 year plan and renew it in 2. Don't just put it on paper and say, this is what I'm going to do for 3 to 5 years. Create that, put it up for 2, and then at year 2, create a 3 to 5 year plan, renew it in 2, or at least be flexible enough to realize it's not set in stone. Because that's, Frank, if we get together in 3 years, we run this recording, says, hey, listen, go listen to what we talked about in February 2021, and let's talk about it today. What did we get right? And what did we get wrong? And what was it that we didn't even see coming?
Yeah, no doubt. I think what you're doing, Seth, is incredible by pushing the envelope. One thing we haven't talked about, and if you pay attention to the landscape of the ever so important tool to sort of keep the aftermarket snubbed, that is patenting laws and such. So I think if there's any association that you can line yourself up with and pay attention to that and be a voice at your local representative, Scott, ASCCA, Carolyn, I know you're doing wonderful things there, ASA National as well. Look, you can't be on the sidelines. Nobody has time for comments in the comments section. We need to show up and we need to be there as an aftermarket. This is critical. The Bob Reddings of the world that are paying attention to what's happening in DC. These patent laws may eat our lunch if we're not careful. And so, without getting sidetracked here, I think it's important that we look at the legislative side of things, and let's not just be sideline water boys and water girls. We need to get in there and start coaching our presence and our strength. It's critical more than ever.
Thanks, Frank. There was a question or a comment that came up from Greg Kelly. Does anyone have a feeling of the future of the energy cell vehicles, the hydrogen cell vehicles? I personally think they will replace EVs. Anyone have a foresight on that?
Yeah, I mean, California has been super proactive with hydrogen, and the EV community that's also very active in California has had a lot of very strong words for the hydrogen efforts, and they would argue that we've been set back 20 years by the distraction that is hydrogen. The problem with hydrogen is that you have to apply energy to it, to water or whatever, natural gas, to get the hydrogen molecules. And so the idea is that instead of putting the energy into something else to make hydrogen, why don't you just put the energy directly into a battery, right? The difference between a battery and a hydrogen, tank of fuel is that you can get a lot more energy right now into a tank of hydrogen than you can into a battery. So the energy density of batteries is still a work in progress. But man, it's basically a race for energy density. It's like, right now, obviously the thing that has the most density, at least, that's safe to put into an automobile, is gasoline. Gasoline is incredibly energy dense, so energy dense that we can waste 85% of it and still fly down a racetrack. I mean, it's incredible. And boy, wasn't it nice that all those dinosaurs buried it under the ground for us. In terms of where we go next, I mean, we'll let the marketplace, essentially duke it out. If hydrogen can be cheaper than battery technology, then we'll go with hydrogen eventually. But right now, EVs are by far the better option. So they're not a proof of concept; they're real, and we see the aftermarket, not the aftermarket. We see the automakers responding to that. That announcement from General Motors was really profound. I was totally shocked and excited when I saw that announcement.
It's not necessarily the best technology that's going to win. VHS, beta, The best technology doesn't always win. It's who can get the political system and everything behind them.
Network
The best
effects.
technology won't win.
Wow. Hey, look at I so enjoyed this, but I would love to give each of you an opportunity to have a few last words. We appreciate you being on with us and hanging in there with us. I have recorded this for a potential podcast. I just loved it, so there's no doubt that I'm going to produce this. We'll put this this video on, and we'll put it somewhere. Just pay attention to it, and once we release it for all of you that are on the panel, we'll share the link. Thank you so much, Colleen Jarger. I know you had some tech problems, but thank you so much for being here, our youngest member of our panel and newest shop owner. Any final words?
Well, I mean, I was late to the game, so I think I have a lot of words, but I'll sub it up for you. It was really great to be on with you guys, even though that I had a lot of technical difficulties. I mean, I think this is what Esteban and I actually talked today before, because we actually were super intimidated just to be on with you guys. I get that we're the future, but you guys are the ones that paved the wave. So, you know, we appreciate that. I appreciate you guys more than anything.
Boy, I am so excited for you and Esteban, and of course, the success that you've had, Matt. We need you all to be more successful than we ever were in those early stages. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your peers. We are willing to help. Esteban, your last words?
Well, once again, thanks everybody. Just keep on training and keep positive. This is an industry that could get you. It has a lot of up and downs emotionally, and just hang out with great people, and they'll put you right back up, and everything will be pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of up and downs emotionally. I love that. I mean, you just brought us into the real world. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Matthew Lockowitzer.
Well, technically, Seth is younger than me, but I'll still.
Oh dear. Oh. All right. Okay.
He's
I stand corrected.
me with all of his technology, though. So, one thing I'd like to say on the EV side is, we need to change and focus on more about not so much about the service of them, but what the maintenance triggers are on these vehicles, and how do we plan for building our shops around what our maintenance triggers on, whether it's EVs or just normal vehicles, and really shift our focus away from the oil changes and things like that. And, every car still has tires, and how do we focus on what's the trigger that's going to bring that vehicle to us, and how do we build our business around those triggers instead of, the way we've always done it.
Thank you for that. I stand corrected. You're older than Seth? Interesting. Seth, your final words?
I'm along for this fun ride, and we'll see where it takes us. And I think just always look forward, and don't be the guy that was thinking refrigerators are going to die when you're pulling ice out. I mean, there's always something coming, and if you're not looking forward, then you can jump in the lake after you cut a hole in it, and it's not very pleasant.
Nature will find a way. There's our man, Seth Thorson. Greg Buckley.
I'm pretty amped up right now. So, no pun there. Now, you know what? I think it's exciting. Well, it was great sharing some time with you guys, and I hope the audience understands and not to be afraid of what's coming our way. Recently, over the last 10 years, I can say that I've never seen so much networking and making friends and getting things solved peer to peer than I have in all the time I've been in the industry. From having to rely on magazines and offline stuff like that. Now it's instantaneously. We can connect, we can solve problems, we can get through anything, we can learn and educate and share our knowledge. For Esteban, Colleen, and Matt, you're on your way, and everybody else who thinks that there's not, it's not worth starting, you're wrong. We're here to tell you that it's a great profession. We've got a great industry, and we've got a rock solid future.
Boy, and let us as an industry help the current shop owners find their succession plan, and even if it's internal or external candidate, It's not an easy decision to make, sometimes not an easy transaction to do, but yet there's going to be more in the next 2 or 3 years than we ever imagined. So a lot of resources out there. Frank?
FPYB, future-proof your business. If I'd have known this back in '95, opening up my first dark and dingy garage, you got to future-proof your business. What is the value of your operation to the marketplace? Pay attention to that. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of rock stars in the industry that are cutting edge. Pay attention to what they're doing, because otherwise you get overwhelmed and you forget the FUN. Have fun with your damn business, because that's what it's about. These changes will come, but don't forget to future-proof your business.
Well, 4 letters that perfectly said. Thank you, Frank. Scott Brown, you have the last word.
I do. I think there's other people behind me, right? But actually, this has been a great conversation, a lot of fun. Again, our businesses, we are in the relationship business, right? So Frank put it out there. We've got to basically, the repair part is the secondary part. It's the relationship. So I was looking at our environment here around our shop, our nice little downtown city area. They've got a lot of really interesting long-term growth initiatives going on. And those that have hung around me know that I like a nice microbrew. And Esteban actually can attest to that. He came to my shop a couple weeks ago. He visited, he wanted a tour. And before he left, he gave me a bunch of different microbrews that him and his brother came up with that they thought that I would like. So one night I had a dream. And I got up the next morning and I told my wife and I said, man, I had this dream and this is crazy, but listen to this. We've got a pretty big building here. And I basically took one slice of the building and converted part of it into a microbrewery. And I had like this little oasis here where we had customers coming in. They were discovering our microbrewery. The people were coming for our beer and they were discovering we can do auto repair. It was great. So Frank, take that and run with it.
Carolyn, I need to come to you for the last word. But here's a great comment. Jim Murphy, skate to where the puck is going to be. Of course, Wayne Gretzky, right? And Jim, thank you for that. It is so darn true. Jimmy Lee, thanks for being here with us. Carolyn, the final word.
Thanks for doing this, Carm. And it's a pleasure to be with everybody and to learn from everyone here, and also just inside of this industry. We're a self-taught industry. We taught ourselves how to fix cars. We're teaching each other how to run our businesses. I mean, it's really it's such an inspiration to be a part of this community. And one last plug, ASCCA. We'd love to meet you. Check out our website. Doing great things inside of the organization. And Carm, we really appreciate your support and you're putting this on for us today.
Hey, thank you all. Have a great evening. We'll chat soon. Bye now.